lead singer's disease. Now, with the recent events happening with Jane's addiction, it brings up the topic of lead singer's disease. What is lead singer's disease? You know, singers, their instrument is their throat. If they don't take care of it, or if they overwork it, they get on stage, they get frustrated, their ego takes over, and you have what resulted on a Friday night in Boston. Perry Farrell going over the edge, attacking a bandmate on stage, body checking a bandmate. Now, lead singer disease has become a thing. I think the first time I ever heard it mentioned was talking about David Lee Roth and how, lead singers with their egos and their outrageous demands and all the things that you'd attribute to somebody with an overblown ego taking it out on their bandmates. But in their defense, lead singers have it tough. I can speak on this because I spent time on the road, not being the front man, but being the lead singer in a band that toured. And I can understand that the lifestyle, the time on the road, the traveling, the drinking, all of those things can take a toll on your voice. Now, I heard in several different reports from people that had seen Jane's addiction on this tour that Perry Farrell was drinking and, at varying degrees of performing. I had one person tell me in the comments that they had been in the photo pit for a show and they could smell the alcohol coming off of him. I saw other clips of that show on Friday night where he's just literally just looking at whatever that box is, whether it's an iPad or a control box or some kind of effect that he's messing with, and he's literally just staring at it and not even engaging the crowd. Lead singers, you can't live with them, you can't live without them. Somebody had also said in the comments, oh, they should just get another singer and do, oh God. It's like somebody who has, nothing but women troubles. And we all have a friend like that who just dates the wrong people and, has a life of woe and is always crying about his girlfriend or whatever. And you say, oh, it's okay. You can get a new girlfriend. Maybe this guy just needs some time on his own for a while just to sort out his issues. And then maybe he'll find somebody that he likes. Getting another singer, man, you're just going to be jumping into another boat with somebody that you have no experience with out on the road. I think all singers, start off just like everybody else, just wanting to perform, but the pressure of performing live, the pressure of having your instrument, on you and being, temperamental. A voice is a very temperamental thing, and sometimes you don't know what you have to work with until you get out there on stage. And it can be very frustrating when you can't perform. I've been on stage with singers that have lost their voice in the middle of a show. It is not a fun place to be. Lead singers have to have a lot of ego. If you have a lead singer with no ego, there's a good chance they're not a great performer. You have to have the bravado. You have to have the swagger. And unfortunately, you have to have the big ego to walk out on that stage naked. And I don't mean with no clothes on. What I mean is lead singers. They perform with no instrument in front of them. Now, this is how they connect to the audience, being open, just like I'm speaking to you right now. And I noticed, because I can sing and I've fronted bands, and I understand, grunge and Nirvana, and Kurt Cobain was, wrote great songs and sang good and played his guitar parts and all that, but he wasn't a front man. And I have noticed the difference. If I go out in front of an audience with no instrument and present myself and I'm open to the audience, there's no barrier between you and the audience. My guitar, on the other hand, if I go out with a guitar and I'm singing, even though, I'm still entertaining, there's something about having that guitar. It's almost like a barrier between you and the audience. Now, I know there's plenty of guitar players that were great showmen and, could carry a performance and carry, with their name, Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix, even Jeff Beck. I mean, he didn't sing, but, he was able to perform and carry a performance. But man, I think a lot of bands, they need the lead singer. It's like having an Elvis up front and then Scotty Moore and Bill Black and DJ Fontana behind you as the band. This whole rock and roll band thing, you could argue it started in the 50s with, a group like that. And, Elvis had his own singer issues. Mick Jagger, he ticked off his drummer one night, and Charlie Watts got all dressed up and walked down to the room and socked Mick Jagger, in the face. Bands have dealt with singers' egos for as long as there's been frontmen fronting a band. Some have more ego and more problems than others. Some might not be directly confrontational with their band, like Perry Farrell was the other night, but their drinking problems, their drug problems, showing up late, like Axl Rose back in the day. Axl Rose was notoriously late on stage. He wouldn't go out on stage until he felt the crowd was worked up into a frenzy. And man, this caused nothing but problems for Guns N' Roses. Axl Rose back in those days was a temperamental, guy that was difficult to deal with. But those guys had to deal with him because that is the front man of their band. And without him, it's not the same. Now, Perry Farrell's wife tried to cover for his lead singer's disease. And I noticed Joe Bonamassa called it out on Twitter. He called it out, said, this is just lead singer's disease. I listened to the band and I heard the clips, and, ultimately the sound man has control over the monitors and the front of house mix. But sound men make a judgment call when they're mixing. And I've known cases where, certain band members are mixed lower than others and some are louder than others. And it's a fact of life. Sound men's job is to make it sound good. Now, if a singer is struggling with his pitch and struggling with his vocals, do you think they're going to make the vocals the loudest thing on stage? No, they're not. They're going to go for a mix where the vocal is blended into the band. And I believe very much, after hearing those clips, that's exactly what the sound man was doing in that case. And like I said, his wife tried to deflect rather than Perry stepping up and saying, hey, maybe I haven't been taking care of myself that good out here on the road. And, I really shouldn't have taken it out on the band. I know they're doing their best. Instead of being humble, his wife came out and made a statement. And man, that's not what you want to do. That's not how you want to handle a thing like this. You just don't. It's like, man up, admit your mistakes, and, move on. Dust yourself off and move on. So Etty Farrell, Perry Farrell's wife, described Perry as a crazed beast backstage after the event. Etty Farrell says, clearly there had been a lot of tension and animosity between the members. The magic that made the band so dynamic, well, the dynamite was lit. Perry got up in Dave's face and body checked him. Okay, I agree with that. And then she says, Perry's frustration had been mounting night after night. He felt the stage volume had been extremely loud and his voice was being drowned out by the band. Well, I will say this in the band's defense. The reality is they may be trying to drown out his vocal. I mean, look, the guy is not hitting the notes. He's not sounding good. He's not showing up sober. Now, I know Dave Navarro has struggled with substances all through his career, and sometimes he's clean and sometimes he's off the wagon, and I don't know where he's at on this now, but those guys seem to be doing a good job as far as a band goes. So again, lead singer's disease. They're trying to carry this guy across the finish line. They've got 1 month left of dates. She says the band started the song before Farrell was ready, increasing his frustration. Hey, you've got to pace the show. If there's lead singers that want to have this dead air, and man, dead air is the kiss of death in a live performance. You want the show to have continuity. You don't want to have a bunch of dead air between songs. So the band probably said, kick it off, let's go. Look, when somebody's struggling, man, the last thing you want to do is be up there even longer. I don't want to be up on stage longer with somebody who can't sing and is going through the motions and shows up drunk to a show. I don't want to do that. And then Etty addressed who won the fight. Etty suggests bassist Eric Avery went too far. She adds, Dave walked away to take his guitar off. Eric walked up to Perry upstage in the dark, put Perry in a headlock, and punched him in the stomach 3 times. Then Eric nonchalant walked off to the front of the stage to apologize to the audience for the show ended early. Hey man, the band is probably equally frustrated because on stage, I saw before this incident, Perry Farrell gave a big F you to each member of the band. He's going, F you and F you and F you. And man, that is not cool, man. That's not cool, bro. That is not cool. As for what this means for the rest of the tour and the band's immediate future, Etty seems unsure. She says Farrell was a crazed beast and that he later broke down in tears. Man, coming to grips with what you've done, getting all worked up like that and having your bandmates so frustrated that they're putting you in a headlock and giving the guy some blows. I mean, I don't think that was the right thing for the bass player to do, but I understand it. When someone is ticking you off every night and just being a prima donna and lead singer disease and F you and that's you, on stage, dude, at some point, after night of doing this, you've just had enough. Now, somebody said in comments that He's a jiu-jitsu guy, so headlocks and body shots are nothing new, if that's the case. So Etty complimented Dave Navarro, and she said, Dave still looked handsome and cool in the middle of a fight, she says. Perry was a crazed beast for the next half an hour. He finally did not calm down, but did break down and cried and cried. This is just sad. And Etty adds, Eric, well, he either didn't understand what de-escalation meant or took advantage of the situation and got in a few cheap shots on Perry. I'm not going to deny that these may have been cheap shots, but the guy may have just been at wit's end dealing with lead singer's disease.